There is no such thing as a chemical imbalance in the brain that is causing your depression. That is the argument used to sell you antidepressants and to reduce this very complex condition that is depression to simply bad luck. You just got unlucky and you just have, by chance, low serotonin in the brain. Why do I say this? Because in 2008, there was a study published by Kirsch and his team, and they essentially showed that there was no difference between the effects of giving placebo to people, on people with depression, and giving them an antidepressant. In their own words, analysis of the published and the unpublished data that were hidden by drug companies revealed that most, if not all, of the benefits of antidepressants are due to the placebo effect. Some antidepressants increase serotonin levels, some decrease it, some have no effect at all. Nevertheless, they all show the same therapeutic benefits. What this means is that not only saying that depression is due to a chemical imbalance in the brain, to low serotonin, not only it is a reduction, but it is also blatantly false. It was because antidepressants seem to work on depressive people that we created the chemical imbalance theory. It was a consequence of that, because they saw that when they gave those drugs to people, they showed apparently a better mood, they were more active, they had less anhedonia, which is the lack of interest and in taking pleasure in life. So they showed less of that. And because antidepressants, so because those drugs worked, they worked precisely in serotonin receptors. So they, notably for SSRIs, they are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So they block the reuptake of serotonin once it's in a synaptic gap. Because that's how they work, and because these depressive patients seem to be better, depression must be a lack of what this drug is giving them back. But that is untrue, because take the example of someone that drinks alcohol to feel better. It's exactly the same thing. Someone drinks alcohol to improve their mood. And so would you say that that they have a lack of alcohol in the blood, because by drinking alcohol, they're improving their mood? Of course not. But that is the exact logic that is being used to prescribe antidepressants to people. Now you may say, but what is the problem with that? They work, right? Why do we care whether that's the reason or whether it's another reason? Why do we care whether it's due to serotonin, to dopamine, to norepinephrine, to whatever it is, since they work? It wouldn't be a problem if they didn't have a lot of side effects. It wouldn't be a problem if people weren't getting permanent sexual dysfunction from taking SSRIs, from taking antidepressants. And it wouldn't be a problem if people were aware of the risks, but they aren't. Because a lot of times doctors aren't, because there is no interest in telling them that, because it is a lot more convenient for a lot of people to sell you antidepressants and to sell this solution to a condition that is a lot more complex than that, especially because there had never been as many depressed people as now, and especially because the actual solutions don't fill the pockets of the people in interest. People are not enough aware of the side effects of antidepressants and what long-term antidepressant use can do to you. And this is not even to say that you should completely ban antidepressants, because for a lot of people, they don't have enough time in their lives to sit down, look profoundly at what is wrong with them, what was wrong with them in their past, and to take a more holistic approach, a more perhaps slower approach to their condition, but a lot more effective for sure. But still, a lot of people benefit a lot from just taking this pill for a short period of time when life is too hectic for them to sit down with what they're feeling, what is happening to them, and actually resolve it. But that is not to say that the cure for depression should be antidepressants, especially not in the long term, especially with all the side effects that we now know antidepressants have. There are a lot of psychiatrists which are now starting to come out and say this, that not only they have a lot of side effects, but also to taper off them, to get off them, they create a physical dependency on these drugs. And we are not taught that enough. And now you may ask, but what are the options? what else can I do? I'm here to tell you there are a lot of options, but they are not necessarily in line with what mainstream media tells people. For example, there have been countless studies, but when I say countless, it's really countless studies showing that there are a lot of biological factors that are affected and are disruptive in depressive people. For example, one of the most common ones is vitamin D. It is known that low vitamin D can cause depression, and we know this because when some people start to take vitamin D supplementation, their mood instantly increases. And a peculiar thing about vitamin D is that the guidelines, the Worldwide Health Organization guidelines for vitamin D, so the minimum amount that you should be having in your blood, is not the actual minimum that everyone should be having, because that minimum only concerns the minimum amount. I said minimum 3 times already, but the minimum amount so that you don't have a bone mineralization deficiency. But vitamin D has so many more roles than that. It has roles in hormonal regulation, in circadian rhythm, in gene transcription. Up to 10% of your genes are somehow regulated by vitamin D, and of course in mood regulation. Nowadays, so many people are deficient in vitamin D because we have switched our lifestyles into spending a lot more time indoors than before. We have never spent so much time indoors. And also there's this sun demonization culture where we just see the sun as this imminent threat that is going to give us melanomas and create all these sorts of skin conditions and problems. Whereas, of course, being reasonable about the sun, don't go out when it's midday and it's boiling hot, but the sun used to be revered in other cultures. And by modern culture, it is seen as essentially the devil. So there's that. And there is evidence that when people that were depressed start taking vitamin D supplementation, very high doses, their mood instantly increases. Then, of course, this is not for everyone. You might not be vitamin D deficient, even though most probably you are, at least at some degree, but it might not be the reason why you're depressed. And then we may look at other things, such as your diet. Are you eating a lot of carbs? Do you eat a lot of processed and ultra processed and a lot of desserts and a lot of very high sugar foods? Because there has been a lot of evidence showing that a high carb diet is linked to more depressive outcomes. For example, diabetic people have a very high incidence of depression, which is not a coincidence, because some people are now starting to see depression as a third type of diabetes. Depression as a consequence of a metabolic issue, a metabolic imbalance. And so there has been evidence that a ketogenic diet, so a diet where you restrict heavily the amount of carbs that you're taking, and instead you're increasing the amount of fat, because it essentially switches the way of obtaining energy of your organism. So it switches from glycolysis to ketogenesis. And that has been shown to significantly improve conditions such as bipolarity, schizophrenia, and of course, depression. In a lot of instances, people have been completely healed by this. It is that transformative. I as well have seen the benefits of a low carb diet. It is absolutely transformative. What it does to your mood, to your health, to your energy levels, to your society throughout the day. It's incredible, really. But again, that might not be the answer for you. And so we may look at omega-3. So omega-3 are unsaturated fatty acids that are known and that have been shown to decrease the level of inflammation in the body. And as I said before, depression is more and more starting to be linked to a metabolic issue, to a metabolic imbalance. And so this metabolic imbalance affects the level of inflammation in your body. And insulin resistance, notably, is known to increase inflammation level at the whole brain level, but also at the brain level. And so there has been a lot of more or less scattered data and some individual reported cases, but significant, showing that supplementing with high doses of omega-3s, especially if it's almost 100% EPA, which is one of the two compounds that omega-3s may have, there have been incredible improvements in the depressive conditions in these patients when they were supplementing with high doses of omega-3s. So as you can see, there is so much evidence showing that depression is not just a chemical imbalance in the brain. Just speaking from a biological point of view, which was essentially what we were discussing here, just biological aspects that can be improved, there has been so many evidence showing that it significantly improves your mood. So as you can see, there are so many biological reasons, and I did not even list them all. There are a lot of them. Biological reasons that could be influencing your low mood, your depression. And by improving them, you could significantly improve your low mood. So let this video be a sign that your depression is not just a chemical imbalance. It's not just your brain that is broken and that there is nothing that you can do and only taking antidepressants and hope that it works. There is so much that you can do. You have so much control over your health. You just have to do a little bit of research of your own and really not necessarily listen to what mainstream media is telling you. There is a place for antidepressants for sure, but it cannot be the only solution, and it is not the only solution. I have done a lot of research on this. I have a master's degree in neuroscience, which is the reason why I became first interested by this, because I was starting to read a lot of research that we are not taught in classes, but that it exists and that is real. And I discovered a lot of reasons, a lot of biological reasons that could be justifying a depressive state. So what I want you to take away from this video is to always keep a critical mind, especially when it comes to our health. Antidepressants have been shown to cause side effects, severe side effects sometimes even permanent. And we are not taught enough about the alternatives, about these side effects, and about how can we take our health into our own hands. To this end, I am conducting a study where I have compiled a lot of information. As I told you, there are so many more biological reasons why you could have this low mood, this depression. And so I have compiled all of those reasons, and I have created some form of program, and I'm looking for people, for volunteers who are or who think they might have depression or who are dealing with this very low mood, and they're willing to follow a protocol that I've created for some weeks and then give me feedback on that. Of course, it would be for free, and I am very confident in these measures, but of course, I'm not a doctor, so I cannot say that it will cure you. I'm not allowed to say that, but I'm very confident that it will at least boost your mood and it will at least improve whatever you're facing, especially since it's natural and it's very safe. All the things that I've discovered are very safe. At worst, they don't do anything. So if you're interested in participating in this study so that I can later ask for funding and create a proper study, but if you are willing in participating in this pilot study with few people, let me know in the comments. Just comment, I want to participate, or whatever you want, whatever you feel like commenting, so that I can send you the protocol and we can exchange and keep being curious.